Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room, an island show that likes to deliver on the major issues taking place locally, nationally, internationally. And I'm Robin Adair, and there's nobody more international than my co-host with the most, the Croatian sensation himself, John Jurisic. And Johnny, loving this weather.
Unbelievable. Sun. Great to have all this sunshine, Robin. What about the lack of rain? What about the consequences of lack of rain? This has been a bone dry spring heading into the summer. We've just recorded now in Lower Vancouver Island the driest May ever. You've got to think that we're going to start to see a whole ton more fires in our province, brown skies, bad air quality for breathing, all that kind of negative things. Big concerns. In a few moments, we'll be talking a lot more about the weather and climate with Dr. Andrew Weaver. But first, time to wave the flag, Robin. Around the corner is July 1st, Canada Day. I believe this is a wonderful country. I'm so proud to be a Canadian, and I want to celebrate as fully as possible.
Couldn't agree more, John. Let's really hope the skies don't get brown for Canada Day. We want to be able to celebrate and enjoy things. And there does seem to be, however, a bit of a man-made damper on our national day and our national celebrations, which I think stretch for a number of days at this time of the year. And I'm talking about the atmosphere that says maybe Canada Day should not be celebrated as much as it is. In Vancouver, they've scrapped the fireworks. They say it's too expensive. Well, they've had fireworks forever in Vancouver. Now suddenly it's too expensive. In Calgary, the mayor of Calgary says, no, we can't have fireworks because that's out of respect to reconciliation. And yet First Nations leaders in Alberta say, we didn't ask for that. So where is that coming from? Canada Day is still important to most of us. It's a great day because we can celebrate a great nation. Sure, we've got flaws. There are things that need to be improved on. Everyone acknowledges that. That doesn't mean you shouldn't celebrate. We've got so much to be proud of. One of the freest, safest, best countries in the world. So who do we turn now to talk more about Canada Day? How about Mr. Canada himself, a guy that continually year-round wears a maple leaf pin? That's Victoria Councillor Chris Coleman. Let's ask him what he thinks about all of this Canada Day foot dragging. So in your mind then, it's A-okay for Victoria to show the way, and if other cities choose not to, that's their choice, and we'll just do
and hopefully they will learn from us.
So you must be happy to see them back.
I'm thrilled. I love these things, partly because it's a finale to the day where we celebrate our Canadian identity.
And you'd agree that at times, at least, Canada Day can be a bit of a political football.
I think the history of Canada has always been a political football with divergent opinions, but we've come together and created this wonderful experiment that other parts of the world look jealously at.
We talk about reconciliation in the sense of what's happened in Calgary. They actually canceled, I know, our Canada Day celebrations here with a previous council. Mayor Lisa Helps did that. And that, again, was in the name of reconciliation. First Nations aren't asking for that sort of thing. And really, Canada Day is for everybody.
Well, and it's about an inclusive society. So if you cancel it because you don't like the history or you don't think we're being inclusive, that's up to you. But in Victoria, we are trying to bind people together because that's what nation building is about. And yes, we have to recognize some hard truths of the past, but we do it together.
And we're willing to celebrate every group, including people like the Croatian sensation.
Well, John Jurisic, who is the self-described hero of all Croatians, is of course part of the celebration we'll have.
So we can even celebrate him.
Of course.
Chris Coleman is rarely, if ever, controversial. That's great. That's his personality. That's who he is. He's about as mainstream a politician as you're going to meet. Sometimes that's exactly what our local politics needs. I suggest his views are the views of the vast majority. And this majority honors and loves Canada Day and wants to celebrate it. So let's, unfortunately, now turn the corner a little bit, put the flag away until July 1st, and turn back to the weather, Robin.
Of course, this show is going to actually reach over July 1st, so we'll see exactly how things go in this whole holiday season, John. And you're right,
Mhm.
we're going to shift gears now for a moment and talk about the other big problem, which is the potential of brown skies because of forest fires. And it all comes back to all this sunshine and not enough rain. And what is this? What is this all pertaining to? Where is global warming taking us? These are the questions for Dr. Andrew Weaver, one of the world's leading experts on the climate and the future. Let's zoom him in. And now, back in the Rumble Room, once again, a great friend of our show, Andrew Weaver, one of the top world experts on climate and climate change. Great to have you back.
Always a pleasure. Love the Rumble Room.
Well, that's great. We love to be loved, and we have some major stuff to talk about here around the climate. It seems to be the big conversation. Every time you get out, people are talking about how remarkable the weather has been in April.
Except within the political circles around Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, that's true.
Perfect.
Well, there's that as well. But let's talk about the weather for a minute. We've had all this hot weather and then this wind. We're not getting very much rain up in northern BC and right across Alberta. They've had such hot weather, and now they've had a major rainstorm and flooding. But it's been crazy, and we haven't even actually reached the summer yet. So my question to open this thing out: are you surprised about the way the weather is unfolding?
There's no surprise at all. In fact, this summer is looking up to be a bit of a horrific forest fire season. I did take season. Caesar might have been some kind of Freudian slip there. We've noticed. I did a quick look at the seasonal forecast for the rest of June, July, August. It's looking like it's hot and dry, and those are the conditions that are precursors for fire season. And when we must also remember that when we talk about it's going to be above normal or slightly above normal, we continually redefine what normal is in the climate community every 10 years. So our whole definition of normal is chucked up too by half a degree or so globally. So no, really, there's nothing normal about what we're seeing. It is, but it's also not the new norm. And a lot of people don't realize that it doesn't stay like this. It gets worse and worse and worse as time goes on.
We've heard from some political leadership that we need to immediately move to a so-called green power to reverse the climate trend. But on the other side of this argument, we hear the world might be in better shape if we had countries like India and China burning LNG instead of coal or wood. Would more natural gas power make a significant difference to our world air pollution problems?
It would make a significant difference in driving us faster towards that 4-degree target that I don't think we can ever we want to meet. So no, it's smoke and mirrors discussion. I mean, it's literally nonsense to say that I'm going to continue to pollute, but just in a different way. But it doesn't. If it shouldn't, it makes no sense. The discussions that we should be having are what is the cheapest form of electricity in India right now? Well, it's solar. And then one might argue, well, what about meeting baseload supply? And there's means and ways of storing that. What about, why aren't we talking about, we just saw a small modular nuclear reactor announced in Canada, and that's pretty exciting. Why aren't we talking about these kind of technologies for expanding massive, India just is now overtook China as the most populous country in the world. Why aren't we talking about using that form of energy? Why aren't we talking more about the advancements in fusion that we spoke on Rumble Room about before? We do not need more natural gas to save China and India from themselves. What we need is non-greenhouse gas emitting electricity produced. And at the same time, we need the widespread introduction of negative emission technology. There's a lot of nonsense out there about somehow still trying to meet the 1.5-degree target. As I speak in Rumble Room before, finally, we're starting to see internationally people say, oh, it looks like we're going to break 1.5 degrees sometime between now and 2027. Well, we could have said that the year that target was made, because we'd already committed to that warming. So there's a lot of just rhetoric out there. And people really trying to keep doing what they're doing and pretending that somehow this is good for climate. It is unequivocally irresponsible to build more fossil fuel infrastructure when we know that doing so is committing us to a pathway onwards towards eventual trouble, big trouble, when we know better. We know what's going to happen if we keep doing this. Yet we keep doing it. It doesn't make sense. And what ends up happening is the disconnect between those who are at the decision-making level for about questions like natural gas or oil or coal don't realize that there's an entire generation of millennials out there who are fed up with this, who are saying, hang on, you've messed up enough with the atmosphere during my lifetime. You old guys and women, you've made a problem and you're not listening, and we're getting really angry. And we want you to listen. So it ends up feeding the polarization of society even more.
I want to just shift again. We're going to talk about the climate that we've been seeing here and thinking to ourselves how warm and dry and what all these different things that we've already been talking about. And we're thinking, well, what's going on south of the border? For those of us who traveled south over the winter months, it was cold in places like Cabo, cold in Palm Springs, and wet in California. In fact, they've had record amounts of rain and floods and all sorts of things. The weather has not been warm. It doesn't sound like global warming. So what's the weather conditions that are causing that?
So, I mean, we're in a transition season coming out of a La Nina, which was going on in the winter, and so you typically get slightly cooler than normal conditions. And we're moving into what looks like a well-established El Nino period, which typically leads to warmer than normal conditions. I mean, I've got to be honest with you, Robin. No one has any sympathy when you're telling me that you went to Los Cabos and it was a little cooler than normal, right? So this is the reality. I mean, cooler than normal in Los Cabos is still nice. Here, there has been, and the California really could do with the rain because they have been experiencing severe drought. Agricultural production was hurting. The Colorado River was in very real trouble. Some of their reservoirs were way down low. So it's actually a good story to get some of the rain. The problem is, as people realize, is that when we get rain now, it's very different from the way we used to get rain. So as the atmosphere warms, we tend to find that it rains maybe a little less often, but when it does, it comes in bigger amounts because there's more moisture in the atmosphere. And so you get bigger rainfalls happening, and it's our infrastructure that we've built over many, many decades can have some difficulty in being able to cope with the changing amounts of water. You know, we build a storm drain system to last maybe, you know, the 1 in 100-year event if we're doing it very responsibly. Well, that 1 in 100-year rain event is no longer a 1 in 100-year event. Maybe it's like a 1 in 20-year event or something like that. So you start to have to rethink about how we engineer our built environment to actually cope with these changes as well. I mean, how many houses in Victoria were built with air conditioning inside them? Well, I can tell you none when I was growing up. And like if I would have thought you were mad if you would tell me that I was going to need air conditioning in my house when I was older. But I have to have air conditioning because the upstairs, when it's 28 outside, is 35 upstairs, and that's warm. And this is again a changing our built environment to adapt to the changing climate conditions.
Andrew Weaver. He wears so many hats. Of course, formerly the leader of the BC Greens, and he decided to remove that political jacket, back in academia and back fully on the climate file. And we really appreciate him spending as much time as he does with us on the Rumble Room. He's a great guest, and we'll definitely have him back. And on that happy note, John, it's time to say goodbye.
Absolutely, Robin. I too want to thank Andrew Weaver. He's been so supportive of our program from the beginning. Most importantly, delivers fabulous content and analysis with a ton of personality. We have so much fun. Maybe one day we will release and publish the shows we don't record and provide to the public. No, not going to do that. So he's even, despite losing the Alberta election bet, as did I, we look forward to having Andrew yet again.
And we know who won that bet. We know who won that bet.
Yes, we do, Robin. That is you. But we'll have many more elections on which we can be betting with Dr. Weaver. And we love delivering strong personalities in the Rumble Room, including ourselves and all of you, viewers, listeners, watchers, everyone. We've responded with well over a million cumulative views since we started this project just over 2 years ago. If you want to follow us, I hope you do. I certainly hope you subscribe. Facebook is the heart and soul and the pulse of our show, as Twitter, as is YouTube. Always please think about subscribing and liking our videos. And of course, we participate in many Facebook news groups, as well as Instagram and TikTok. For now, I remain a very proud Canadian, happy to wave the maple leaf and strongly encourage fireworks. I love the fireworks display on July 1st, wherever they may be. I'm John Jurisic.
And Canada, I proudly stand for thee. I'm Robin Adair, and rumble on.